Happy International Women's Day.
Woot woot.
Love the enthusiasm. All right. So it looks like we have a few people still joining and connecting to audio. This is everyone's first Women's Day event of the day. I'm sure I've noticed there's lots of stacked lineups, lots of stuff going on.
Hi, I'm Bridget Hopper. I'm one of the co-founders and partner with Katie of Marigold PR. And we'd like to welcome everyone to Marigold Live and happy International Women's Day today. We're very excited to celebrate with all of you and reflect on the day. I'd like to start off with a land acknowledgement. As we gather in this virtual space, we acknowledge that the ground beneath our feet is historically home of Indigenous peoples. Marigold is based in the Halton region. Halton, as we know today, is rich in history and modern traditions of many First Nations and the Métis. We acknowledge and thank the Mississaugas of the First Credit Nation for being stewards of this traditional territory. We also recognize the enduring presence of Indigenous people on this land. We'd also like to recognize and thank Ashleigh Brown and the SheCann community. Ashleigh and her team have supported thousands of patients in Canada to navigate the medical cannabis system. Between your generous donations and Marigold's contribution, we've raised $2,000, which will go towards supporting SheCann's overhead costs. So now that's my welcome. We're really happy to see all of you. And I'm going to turn things over to Danielle to give us a run through of today's program.
Thanks, Bridget. Hi, it's nice to see everybody. Throughout the event, please join in and use the chat feature. Definitely throw your social handles in there, any projects that you have going on. Love everyone to engage and say hello, throw your LinkedIn in there and keep the conversation going on social as well. You could use the hashtag Marigold Live. That way everyone can find everything. And if you have any questions or comments or anything, please put it in the chat. But majority of the event, we are actually going to be going in and out of breakout rooms. So I'm going to be turning things over to Ashleigh in a moment. And after that, we'll be going into rotating breakout rooms of 3 to 4 people. That way we can connect on a more intimate level, really get to know each other. And I encourage you during this time to really discuss your collaboration goals. If you're looking for influencers for a campaign or you're looking for advice on medical, really anything that you want to be working on right now and bringing people in, it's a great opportunity to hear what each other are up to and connect with everybody. So I'd like to turn things over to Ashleigh to kick us off with an overview of SheCann and what they have going on right now.
Thank you both so much, Bridget and Danielle. I really cannot express just how genuine and long-standing Marigold's support of SheCann has been. You have always shown up and offered us space to talk about what we're working on. You have personally supported me as friends and colleagues, and this really generous act today is a meaningful and substantial contribution to this SheCann community. I'd say I don't have words. It's very rare for me not to have words. I usually have too many words. I'm almost speechless. So thank you for attending today. Thank you everybody for your donation. SheCann, for those of you who don't know, is a grassroots medical cannabis peer community. We started in 2017. I have epilepsy. I started having seizures in 2009 when my youngest daughter was about 3 months old. So they came out of the blue and they stayed around. I was having upwards of 180 seizures a month for over 7 years. And we reached the end of the traditional medical path in 2016 when they basically said, We've done everything we can. We're controlling some of them, but not all of them. And we're really going to treat you as palliative. Surgery wasn't an option at that time. So a good friend of mine offered me the opportunity to try medical cannabis. She herself was treating Lyme disease. She'd gotten her ACMPR at the time, and she brought me a vial of CBD oil. It was actually from Tweed. So that's back in 2016. I had used cannabis before, was kind of like, yeah, it's great, but I don't think it's gonna, help my seizures or cure me. And she said, well, no, this is different. This is medical cannabis. It's CBD. Just please try it. And so I was skeptical, but she was a really good friend. And so I decided I had nothing to lose. And that weekend in July, I took a dose every day for, I guess, 4 days. And for the first time in 7 years, I was actually seizure free for more than 24 hours. So medical cannabis was the start of a completely new life for me. And I still have seizures. I'm very transparent about this. Medical cannabis has not been a cure. I've yet to see it be a cure for anything per se, but we're early days in science. It reduced my seizures from 180 upwards to 15 to 30 a month. So medical cannabis gave me my life back. It's allowed me to be a mother to my daughters again. And the cannabis industry was the workplace that I re-entered after years of being on disability. So in 2017, I was kind of armed with some information, but didn't really know how to dose or how to figure any of this out. And I was accessing through the legal market. So I turned to Facebook groups and communities and everything else, and looking for information on things like terpenes and dosing and who to buy for them and what licensed producers had what. And there was a lot of knowledge out there, but the legal market and the ACMPR specifically was still so new. There were a lot of communities that didn't feel overly hospitable to people accessing through that system. It was important to me to do it that way just because, I had 2 young children and I couldn't make oil myself. So myself and a few other women decided to start our own community to create a safe and compassionate space that was really peer-led and to provide evidence, resources, and support for women in Canada accessing cannabis for medical purposes through the system at that time. It is a system that was flawed and still is today, but it was one we were willing to work within. And apparently that idea was novel. So by the end of 2017, we were growing like crazy. We got the Canadian Cannabis Award behind Tweed and Aurora for Best Social Media Account. And it was really astounding to me that all of these humans were willing to show up and really share the most vulnerable parts of their health journey. People would come and say, I know this is a stupid question, but, and, an entire community of hundreds at that point, now thousands, would say, no, there's no stupid questions. You can ask whatever you need. People who are in chronic pain, people living with, partners or children who were also in situations where they were at their last kind of resort, seeing these people come together and understanding the value of that lived experience in the face of really not having necessarily as much evidence or, medical support as we would have liked was really astounding. So fast forward to 2022, SheCann is a digital network of over 11,000 now. And our mantra is the same. Our goal is always to be a peer support community. The hub is on Facebook. It's a highly engaged community of about 5,500. We currently have a wait list because we're doing our best to make sure that we maintain that standard of care, and it's entirely volunteer driven. So for better or worse, I'm a prairie girl, and I like to do things in a frugal way. And that means that in order to keep things free, we've just run it ourselves. And that's 15,000 volunteer hours on my behalf. That's 15,000 from a team of volunteers over the years. And it's entirely funded out of pocket. We've done that because we believe that information and support should be free to patients. And from that, we have grown this incredible very engaged community of advocates and ambassadors who desire to support each other and desire to really reform medical cannabis access. So right now, one of the things that we're working on that I'm really excited about, we have a couple research projects. One, we've partnered with McMaster University and their Faculty of Social Work to roll out a survey for parents who are pregnant or breastfeeding and chest feeding to understand how they better learn and to create educational materials. One of the things that we found over the years in SheCann is a lot of people need to consume cannabis or choose to consume cannabis while pregnant and while parenting, but nobody will really talk about it. And there's so much stigma and risk in talking about it that there's not a lot of evidence. We know that there is science-based evidence out there, and we want to make sure we present a balanced picture. So we're really very pleased and humbled to be working on this ongoing project with McMaster, and equally as excited to launch the Medical Cannabis Access Survey, which is a collaboration that has been 2 years in the making. So we are working off the side of our desks, and SheCann is working with Medical Cannabis Canada, Sante Cannabis, the University of Manitoba, and McGill as well, to deliver a medical cannabis access survey. So I know Danielle has mentioned she's much better at tech than I am. There's a link that we would love for anyone who's consumed cannabis for medical purposes, who's thinking about it, who is a caregiver for someone, anyone who has contemplated it all, to really fill this survey out. We are grassroots, so we are relying on the kindness of others to amplify this voice. It's about a 15-minute survey, and the data is really going to be used to inform our position as we move into the consultation period for the 2023 scheduled medical cannabis program review. So it's really important to me personally. I know it's important to every medical cannabis patient that I know to have a voice in the reform and ongoing evolution of the medical cannabis program. Access is incredibly important, as is affordability. And I think that the more of us that stand up and say, this was my experience, these are my barriers, this is where I see opportunities for improvement, and this is what cannabis has done for me, the more we have the opportunity to really give a very broad and diverse lived experience. I want to make sure we get as many people as possible doing this. And it's a really surreal thing to go from, being so sick, being a mom of 2 girls, being disabled for years and unable to really do much outside of the home, to be fortunate enough to spend my time with this community of amazing human beings. And throughout the last 2 years, as the world got smaller in a lot of ways, SheCann stayed pretty compassionate and wonderful. And I think it's really a testament to what happens when you bring people together and what women especially do when they understand the needs of others. So I always loved the Maya Angelou quote that I come as one, but I stand as 10,000. And I can say that every opportunity I've gotten over the last 5 years, I take that opportunity seriously, because I believe that I'm speaking on behalf of the community that trusts me to lead them. And I really am excited about the future of cannabis, not just for medical purposes, but also the recreational channel. And that's something that maybe gets lost a little in the mix, is that SheCann has a focus on medical access and access to cannabis for wellness purposes. But make no mistake about it, 67% of SheCann members also purchase in the recreational channel. They use cannabis for recreational purposes. They are savvy consumers. They want the latest, the greatest. They want the bath bombs. They want the topicals. They want the highest THC or the highest CBD or everything in between. So cannabis is and will always be both for most people. And we want to make sure we acknowledge that within the community, and also that we acknowledge that to the industry, that the voice of those consumers doesn't just speak to strict access within the existing medical channel, but that it also is a really good indication of some of the market trends. And thankfully, they're very engaged. So SheCann members, and I can see a few of you on here, so hi, before I try and go into the chat and, and say hi specifically. I love to do polls. I love to gather data. that is one of the biggest driving forces behind our advocacy voice, is I can turn around and pull numbers, off the top of my head about who's using what, who's interested in what the barriers to access are, because people are so willing to share that with me. So the community continues to grow, it continues to change and evolve, but it remains grassroots and it remains free to access. And that is something that will not change. What will evolve, and I'm very excited about this, is the way that we present to the world. So for now, as I said, we have kind of limited bandwidth, and a lot of our dialogue and ongoing engagement, which is over 500,000 unique conversations now, which is absolutely bananas to me, will be moving to other platforms as well. So we will be creating environments and spaces that exist beyond Facebook, because Facebook, as you all know, is not overly cannabis friendly, and we all have to call it by different names when we're on the platform. And we will be expanding our reach so that we are a more inclusive, more available, more accessible space. And we'll also be scaling it in a way that is meaningful. So all of your donations today will help me continue to do the work that we've been doing. And also we will continue to move towards, a bigger, better, brighter SheCann. And that was, Danielle, I didn't quite take the 15, but I didn't take the 8 I said I would. So somewhere in the middle, I succeeded. I will say one last thing, and I think it speaks to, the larger discussion about female entrepreneurs and International Women's Day. I was up with my eldest daughter at 5 this morning because she had some homework that she needs to do, and she works better when her and I can work together. So I said, I'll get you up. And I was talking to her about this, and obviously at almost 17, she's, very much a feminist, and she's very much conscious of what this day means and how far we have to go. And I said to her, like, what am I supposed to say? And she goes, tell them the truth. Tell them you're tired. Like, tell them that you're tired. And I said, well, I don't know if anybody wants to hear that. I think they're pretty tired too. And she said, no, but that's not the point. The point is that so much of the work and so much of the value and so much of the honor that and privilege I have is that people are authentic and vulnerable. And I think that when I look around the industry and we see the numbers spun out and we see, the statistics about how many women are in leadership roles or not, how many women are entering the industry or leaving it, it can sometimes feel like maybe we aren't making progress in the right direction. And I think that one of the ways that we can change that is by being vulnerable with each other and by extending each other that grace. So I often say to my clients in my day job and also to, the community, that you'll have all the space you need. So if you need to cancel a meeting because your kid is sick, or you're just having a really bad mental health day, or your week is overwhelming, you have the grace to do that with me, because that is something that I know you're not extended everywhere you go. So as a female in this space, working with other women, that is the one thing I think we can do to make the space feel less overwhelming. Sometimes we can just give each other the grace to say, I'm tired today, or I just need a little extra, or I need a little less, or it might be taking a little bit longer with this. And I think that honesty, it alleviates some of the pressure that we all feel, which is this idea that we should be doing it all with a smile all the time. And I think that's great advice. I think everybody is tired and everybody struggles, and that's not unique to women, but sometimes we feel like maybe we shouldn't be so vulnerable. And I'm here to say you should, and you can. And if you're ever talking to me, you've got all the grace in the world. And I think that's what will make us stronger together. Now I took my 15. There, I took the 15.
I love it. That was great. Thank you for sharing all of that. And I did, I went ahead and put that survey in the chat. I think it might be buried a little bit, so I'll do that again. And we'll also send it out after in an email for everyone. But there's a few questions in the chat that I'd just like to get to before we start networking. Christina from Microdose has asked, since there's a waitlist for SheCann, where do you recommend that women can go for education, cannabis education?
That is a great question. See, I did it. I said, that's a great question, because it is a really good question. You know what I would suggest is, I'm going to hold myself accountable. If you register for, if you apply to join the private Facebook group, you can add your email. And I am going to, now that I have some volunteers back in the mix, I'm going to make a goal of spending the rest of the month kind of working my way through the wait list. So happy to do that, and happy to now be accountable to everybody who's watching this. So you can call me out on Twitter if I don't do it. That would be my best suggestion. I think also what we're seeing, there's some really excellent Canadian content coming out, especially through Leafly. And I would highly recommend that you be following Ashleigh Keenan and all the amazing writers that she's working with, because her focus really has been on medical.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, we definitely won't call you out because we'll give you grace. We'll we'll call you in. And I think Ashleigh is probably joining us a little later on this call. She's wonderful. So Trina has asked, what cannabis products are SheCann members looking for that still aren't offered on the regulated medical market?
So if you'd asked me a year ago, I would have told you suppositories. But now we have suppositories. So I would say that some of it comes down to information gaps. So we're still not seeing as many novel cannabinoid products in stream, and we're not seeing the education to back them up. So SheCann members are very curious about CBN, CBG, CBC, and of course THCV, which has gotten a reputation, whether it's earned it or not, as being an appetite suppressant, which is something a lot of people, including myself, are interested in when we strap on the feed bag of chips at night because we got, too far into a kush. So I would say that for me, the novel and minor cannabinoids are products that people are still looking for. And I think we're still a ways out with consistent onset without inhalation. So most people are using, some variety. On average, a SheCann member uses 4 different methods of consumption. So they're mixing and matching, often ingesting for sure, edibles, oils, but they're also looking for things that work consistently, and oils don't always. And, I've definitely been in situations where they hit at a very inopportune time. And, I was not expecting them. So we know that SheCann members are looking for, discrete options that work consistently and effectively in terms of onset time. And also those minor novel cannabinoid products with the education to back them up. So the CBN product line is really interesting, but it's still really challenging for people because you introduce a new product, and of course, companies really can't talk about what it does or doesn't do without kind of running afoul of the regs. So how do we educate around what might happen and help people to understand what that means for them? So lots of trial and error around the CBN products we're seeing in market. And I think it's going to be about finding out what those doses are. I think that's where it gets really interesting from an anecdotal perspective is, how do we listen to what's already being said as we formulate products that are going to come to market in the next, months and years?
Mm-hmm. Very true. I know I was having a CBN conversation yesterday because I was recommending it to someone who was asking about sleep, and she's like, well, how much do I take? And I'm like, I'm not actually sure, but I know some people I can ask, so I'll get back to you. So.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, and CBN on its own, right? So again, we go back to that idea of like what we've learned to this point a lot is around the entourage effect. But then we bring in a new kid on the block, and it's like, okay, well, does he pair best with THC? Do we need CBD, CBN, and THC? Like, what's going to work? So always excited to be, an N of one guinea pig for those things myself. But at the same time, I understand that also can be really frustrating to people. So I think as much education as we can do within the system, and I do think it's possible to educate even within the regs, that's going to sell your product, because if people don't know how to use it, they're probably going to buy it. It's not going to work, and they won't buy it again. And they probably won't recommend it. So I think that's where there's a lot of potential and opportunity in this kind of next round of products.
Awesome. So that is it as far as questions in the chat goes. So I think we will, oh, actually, sorry, I just see one coming in from Nina. Hi, Nina.
Hi, Nina.
Now that rec business has been legal for a while, is the federal government still intending to safeguard medical cannabis access as distinct from rec? Does this distinction have value to the federal government?
Great question. So this is where that medical cannabis access survey becomes so important. There is at this point no intention of getting rid of the medical cannabis program, and there is every intention of reviewing it. So there are 2 reviews that are mandated. One was, and George, you can correct me if I get this wrong, but one was mandated by the Senate as an overall review of C45, which was scheduled to happen in October of 2021. But best laid plans. Things have been busy. And the second is a Health Canada mandated review that they said we'd like to look at the medical cannabis program specifically in 2023. So for all intents and purposes, they left the medical program intact and didn't change it too much because they really wanted to understand how recreational use was going to impact the way people use the program. And 5 years was kind of their benchmark to say, okay, we'll go back and revisit it. And they also didn't want to screw it up more. So, there's that side of things. I think it is a very, very important time to start having those conversations. So even if we don't meet the 2023 goal and Health Canada hasn't started that review, we still need to be having these ongoing conversations. The access survey is a really good way to have your experiences heard. And then from there, we'll formulate what are really the most important asks and reforms that are reasonable, that make sense not only to the industry, which we need to exist to serve patients, but also to patients and potential patients so that Canadians are getting what they need. So at this point, the federal government and Health Canada specifically understands the need for a medical program. And I think that that's really important to keep in mind, as frustrating as some of the limitations of mail order access are or selection. This is the time. This is the time to share your voice through tools that will actually reach Health Canada. And they are very well aware that we're doing this. And I like to hang out with them every couple months and just touch base and say, hi, friends, I'm not going to yell at you today. So make no mistake, they are paying attention to the fact that there are 2 separate channels in this country. And there is a process in place to review it.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. And Kylie from Parkland Flower has asked, with all the high THC demand, do SheCann members ask for or wish there were more lower THC products?
Great question, Keely. So first of all, hi. Second of all, yes. So not every medical cannabis patient wants the same thing. And unfortunately, the recreational market has largely dictated what producers, processors, micros have been able to grow, because we know if it is under 20%, a lot of places will not take it. And I also know that the industry has to make tough choices about what they grow and cultivate because they have to be able to sell it. And in SheCann, there are people using all sorts of things. And one of the biggest challenges they find is a lack of balanced products, a lack of mid-teen THC, which still has a very big place in terms of how people medicate daily. And so I think that is one way that the medical program does stand apart, is that we do see a diversity in potency and strength because it's something people are consuming every day. And it is also something that I believe the recreational market would reflect more of if those products were actually available for sale, which, isn't necessarily even up to the consumer. It's often up to the provinces. So that is something that has impacted both channels. And I think, my hope is as we educate more and see things that are non-intoxicating like CBN, that the markets will start to even out. But I'm really thankful to the companies who continue to make those diverse products and offer them, especially at affordable prices.
Yeah, I was going to say, I see a lot of people on SheCann asking about balanced products. It's something I'm looking for a lot too. They're hard to come by.
Harder than they should be. And I think there's a lot of people, a lot of Canadians who would benefit from those products in rec because they maybe are potentially, looking for different effects. Yeah, but it's hard without education, and it's hard if, a producer grows the product, but they don't have someone to buy it. It's going to be hard to justify that cultivation again.
So the questions are really hopping in the chat. Yvette has asked if any updates on cannabis health products to release CBD from tight regulations.
I will tell you what I was told, which is the best I can do. I was told that cannabis health products are there for the taking, provided a licensed producer can show research proving out claims that would be attached to the product. So the short answer in my mind is we probably are not seeing those anytime soon, given that the consultation hasn't really moved forward publicly after the formation of the scientific committee. But again, it's been a bit of a topsy-turvy 3 years now. And I think that has impacted everything. And it's just really up to all of us to kind of keep things on track and bring them back when the focus shifts.
We don't need to be shy. We're not formal today. People can unmute themselves and say hello.
Hello.
Hello. Hello. Some new people joined us while we were in the breakout rooms. So if you had anybody pop in, hope you were able to meet some new people. Yeah, how was it? Anybody want to share? Everyone want to say hello before we go into our next round? I feel like somebody has to, so that I'm not talking to myself.
Well, we had a great end of conversation in group 4, and we were just getting into the demand for bud tender education with a vet on the medical side, and sort of that sweet spot between rec and medical in the wellness space and education for bud tenders. And it was getting really good, and then we ended. So
and then I cut you off.
I'm kind of sad. Okay.
Oh, good. So Steph and Megan, I know you both said something, so I don't know who wants to go first. Steph?
Sure. Okay. I just wanted to bring up the fact that Annalise, I was in a room with Annalise, Stephanie Powell, and Sam. I don't know where she went. But Annalise had brought up, because I forgot about it, that it's almost 8 years to the day where corporations have been able to sell medically and produce and sell medically. So that's quite a milestone for us as an industry as well. Some people say we haven't come very far, but also in some ways we have. So hopefully with the next iteration of C45, we're going to come up with some new changes as well that help to push the industry forward.
Very cool. That's an exciting milestone. Megan?
Yeah, so I was in a room with Nina and Jennifer, and Jennifer is just doing some courses at McGill on cannabis. So she's not necessarily in the industry, I don't think, right now. And Nina is a patient, or is at least, gravitating towards cannabis. It was interesting to be around folks who are still sort of very new to this, or still sort of exploring this for themselves as either a career path or, whatever the case may be. It's really nice to see new folks and new blood coming in all the time. It was only a few years ago that I was new blood. And one of the things that we were talking about is just the inclusivity of this industry. And, there's always bad actors. I was saying this, there's always bad actors. There's always people who, aren't as inclusive or aren't as compassionate, or whatever word you want to use. But for me, one of the things that keeps continuing to draw me back to this industry is, the people, the compassion, the treatment the respect we give each other. It's again, I've said it a million times, I'll say it again. It's one of the only industries I've ever felt this level of being seen and heard and respected. And I can't thank every person I've ever interacted with who's shown me that respect enough, because it allows me to then give that back out to other people and try and live that. So, you know, and I just before I close off, I want to send a shout out to an amazing nurse practitioner who I've had the pleasure of working with a couple of times. Shemme Young Tai is on this call. If anybody wants a really top-notch, knows her stuff, really killer MP, and you have questions, she is a wonderful resource to call upon. So I just want to shout her out and celebrate her. And thanks for throwing this little party, ladies. I appreciate it.
I'm going to second that. I'm going to second Shemme for sure. Absolutely. And I have met a lot of practitioners. So that doesn't come lightly. Thank you, Megan, for saying that. And also hi, and also well said. And also, I'm just so glad to see a mix of familiar faces. And I'm just so thankful for all of you. I think it's a really challenging industry to navigate alone, but I have made some really incredible friends and met some amazing people, and feel privileged every time somebody gives me that grace that I can pass it on to. So ditto to everything you said, Megan, as always.
Amazing. I love that. Yeah, you give what you get for sure. Shenmei, since everyone's been calling you out, do you want to say hi and say where people can find you?
Hello, everyone. So my name is Shenmei. I'm a nurse practitioner, and I currently work at several cannabis clinics. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to say that. So I'm at Medical Marijuana Consulting is one. I'm also at Hello MD. And I'm also working with the team at CannTab, which is the first company that's making hard tabs for cannabis. And I also am part of an integrative health team. So I provide a full integrative service of Western medicine, Eastern medicine, medical cannabis, all types of plant medicine. So I'll put my contact in the chat. And if anyone wants to reach out to me, I'm super always excited about talking to people and educating and providing information. So please definitely reach out.
Amazing. Thank you. Yeah, I will. I'll connect because we should talk. And also, just so I'm going to open us up into the next breakout rooms. Hi, everybody.
Hello, hello.
Oh, Ashleigh joined us. And oh, I forgot to mention, Ashleigh, you got a shout out earlier for all your work with Leafly.
Aw, thank you. I'm sad I missed it. I was busy on meetings.
I'll just text it to you. I'll just text you what I said.
Ashleigh, what'd you say about me?
Well, what I said, and I'll repeat it for anybody who missed it, because it was actually an important public service announcement, is that if people are looking for good information and evidence-based education on medical cannabis, that has been a massive priority of yours as the editor of Leafly, and you and all the writers you work with have really expanded the amount of credible Canadian content that's out there.
Thank you. That means the world to me, especially from you.
3 facts.
I'm sorry I missed everything. Hi, I'm Ashleigh.
All good. And while we were in the last round of breakout rooms, Jenna from Alpha Woman also joined us. Amazing. Okay. Anything anybody wants to talk about before I open up the next round of breakout rooms?
I will. I'd like to say my group was great. We had Jaden from Marigold, we had Val from Shatterizer, and we had Stephanie from Roll Call, or I always want to call it Roll Call, but it's not. And we had a great conversation. I hadn't actually chatted to any one of them specifically. I see a lot of familiar faces and friends in this room today, but it was really nice to be in a room with some people for Cannabis at Work, and full supporter, Allison McMahon, love you so much. And it was great to see in the Marigolds team, and as a new Concentrates fan, I love to see all of that. So it from Shatterizer and everybody. So it's been awesome. So I appreciate everybody showing up today. Happy International Women's Day. I'm sorry I'm not on video. I'm not feeling super great, but I wanted to see everyone's faces and wish everybody a good day.
I think we should normalize not being on video when we don't feel like it.
Yeah, and thank you for joining us, Christina. I'm so glad you were able to make it out. But yeah, for sure. No forced video if you don't want to. All right. I'm going to open us up to the next round. So have fun.
I'm meeting so many nice people, but invariably we run out of time in the middle of like really interesting subjects. So it's a great format.
Oh, I'm sorry. I swear every single one of these we have, I lengthen the rooms because I'm like, okay, everyone keeps saying they run out of time. It's never enough.
I love that you're here, George. Thank you for being here.
Yeah,
George, it's so great. It's so great that George is here. You should push your Grass on the Hill event. I was just talking about it.
I was going to say just that there was some great talk earlier about the statutory review, this opportunity where the government of Canada, Health Canada, has to file a report to the parliaments of Canada. They have 18 months to do it. They haven't kicked it off, but they have to kick it off pretty darn soon. C3, the National Industry Organization, is going to be coming to Ottawa, bringing as many participants as we can spring and fall for what we call Grass on the Hill. That's kind of your typical industry knock on the parliamentarian's door and invite them to a reception later in the day as we try to advance 4 or 5 key asks, things that we're looking for in terms of progress in the context of the statutory review. One of those 4 or 5 things for sure, as an example, to our excellent speaker who kicked things off today, is going to be access to medicinal cannabis. So look for more information on this, and also a webinar series that will soon launch. We're the action group where we need more of the industry to come and be present in Ottawa, where our regulators hang out, and we need to press more time and attention with them. So thanks for giving me the chance for that commercial message, and thanks for organizing this wonderful event today, and happy International Women's Day to all of you.
Oh, thanks so much, George. I really appreciate that. And yes, definitely once you have those details, we'll send them out to everybody. And that sounds great. I want to go. I've only been in the industry since after legalization. So, you know, I don't feel like I got to do my due all that much. But yeah, I want to thank George and all of our allies for coming out today. Jeff from Cannabis at Work is here too, and David from Cannabis Prospect Magazine. So thank you so much for joining us. Anything anybody else wants to share before I throw you into the next set of rooms? So we're just about wrapped up, but I just wanted to open up the floor to see if anybody else would like to plug any projects that they have going on.
I don't have a project, but can I plug another person?
Absolutely.
That sounded weird, but I mean in that I want to celebrate somebody else. Because the roll call got me started on this last week, and I want to keep this trend going because I don't feel like we do this enough, except for on designated days. Val McCullough, who is an amazing human being, does not get enough call outs in this industry. And I can tell you, as somebody who has been in a very vulnerable position, you know, one of the first times I ever met Val, I think it was like we'd only met each other a couple of times, and I was at an industry event and I had a really bad reaction to some THC and some booze, and I passed out and I hit my head and got a concussion. And I'll tell you right now, there's nobody you want at your back when you have a concussion and you are in and out of a conscious state than Val McCullough. Okay, she is an amazing human being, was so amazing to me, and I'm telling you, she calls me anytime, I'm there for her, because she is just, and I've seen her like that with a million people in this industry. And it's so nice to see someone like Val, who has been in this for a long time, and they are building an amazing brand and they're doing amazing things. And I love how committed they are to quality and just doing good work and being good humans, as Ashleigh would call them. And so I just want to call out Val for being awesome.
I want to second the call out to Val. I'm sure there's probably a lineup of ladies behind me that also want to do that. I don't say much on these things usually, especially in groups, but you know, somebody's calling out Val and giving her love. I got to stand behind that because she has been such an ally. And when you talk about like women supporting women, Val is one of the first people that comes to mind. You know, she didn't know me very well and I didn't know her, but we've gotten to know each other through being in this space. And just such an OG, and just somebody that genuinely cares, genuinely wants to see other women succeed. And same thing, if Val ever needs anything, I'm right behind Megan in line. So
oh my goodness. Ladies, thank you so much for everyone being together today to celebrate each other and to meet new people as well, and to celebrate those accomplishments. I am so proud of what everyone is doing in this community and for this community. And thank you so much for just the sweet compliments and kind words. And I want to do a little shout out to Danielle, who was recently promoted to a manager. So congratulations. May we all celebrate these kinds of accomplishments, and happy International Women's Day. It's so wonderful to meet so many more really, really great women trying to make a difference in cannabis and through cannabis. So thank you to everybody who's here today. And thank you to the entire Marigold team for putting together something that I'm just so happy to be a part of. Thank you guys.
I have to say, Val, Val single-handedly supports every member of SheCann that purchases one categorizer. People sit on the phone with anyone. She is the most generous entrepreneur I have ever met. And I say that very sincerely, Val. And I also want to point something else out. Val should be and is one of the most successful women I know, because yes, by all the measures of success that we use, you absolutely are. And the reason is because you treat everyone with the same level of respect and compassion. But guess what? There are a million products, there are a million brands, there are a million devices that I can go and buy. But if I can connect with someone who's going to treat me with dignity and respect, that's your brand. That's who you are. And no one can replicate that. And I would go, I'm lining up behind Megan and Mallory. I'm putting up my hand and I'm saying, like, you want a business case for being a good human? Val is it. Because you have fought a fight to be where you are that you've done with grace. But the one thing you've never sacrificed or compromised is your authenticity and kindness. And it is inspiring.
Well, thank you. I mean, I don't know what I'd do without your group, you know. In those evenings, I've turned to it for so many questions, and we are just so thankful for our family and everyone. Like, seriously, thank you so much, everybody. And like, we love our family and we really love extracts. Like, look at where we are, you know, like, seriously. Thank you so much. I mean, it's been a pleasure to see everyone grow too. How exciting, eh?
Yeah, 10 out of 10, cosign, 100%.
Thank you.
Oh, all right. Well, I love that little love fest. If anyone wants to hop on and show anyone else out, now's the time.
Oh, my heart is so full from those shout outs. I didn't realize how much I needed today, and I'm really sad I only got the last hour, but thank you all for organizing this at Marigold. Like, you guys always connect us when we need it, even if we don't know it.
Oh, thank you. I'm so glad you're here.
And thank you very much.
For those that don't know, Ashleigh and I were in a sorority together.
We're outing that.
We've had similar love fests like this before.
Complimendays.
Yeah. Cannabis Complimendays. I'm bringing it back.
Do it.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you all for everything. No, sorry, Danielle. I wanted to say, you know, on behalf of the SheCann community and myself personally, like, thank you all for being here and for reminding me, you know, even though we haven't been able to gather together in person, you're showing up here, and Marigold, Danielle, your willingness to support, you know, the ongoing kind of education and community of patients in SheCann is just really, it's really something very powerful. And in a world that is very quick to call out what is performative action, this is material action. And I think it's very meaningful to set an example like that. And I'm humbled, you know, that you would give us the chance to do this today with you. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. And thank you for doing everything with SheCann. It's so amazing. I go there for questions all the time because all of my relatives are always asking me all of their questions. This actually brings us, our next Marigold Live is going to be on April 27th. And we are going to be talking about social good and, you know, kind of authentic ways to layer your initiatives into your brand and really put your money where your mouth is and speak your values. So I'll have a link for that shortly. And additionally, we have some other fun stuff coming up. We have Budtender Appreciation Week coming up March 21st to 25th, which is going to be fun. Lots of budtenders are going to be getting lots of good stuff. We're going to be having a budtender information session, which is going to be on the Wednesday, the 23rd. So definitely pass that along to all of your favorite budtenders and treat them good always, but especially that week. And also stay tuned for more details around WWC conference, which will be coming up soon. So thank you so much to everybody for being here. Bridget, do you have any last words before we sign off?
I just feel very proud and privileged to be part of this community. And really, that's just happy International Women's Day. There's also lots of events coming up. We've talked a lot about events beyond Marigold. And so we'll keep you posted, and we'll be posting a lot on the expos and conferences and festivals in the months ahead. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And just to close us off, this year's International Women's Day theme is gender equality today for a sustainable tomorrow. So let's and create our sustainable tomorrow. Have a good afternoon, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Ash.